Good morning. Thanks. Yeah, as opposed to Ryan. There you go. Um, Basically, uh, thinking about what you've talked about and what I've said before to you, what I'd like to do is start really focusing on getting contacts, people that I can get to talk about my plan, what I'd like to do, and writing out the what you were talking about, like a pitch. Okay. And yeah, one of the that's I was curious as to how you found those people when you were inside because you didn't have access to the internet. Of course, we don't either. I don't know if you had people outside that were getting you that information or how you did it, and that was what I was curious about.
I think that is a great question, and I'm glad you asked that question, and I will absolutely tell you.
Okay.
So an accountability metric is a series. It's not one, right? You have to have accountability metrics for every way that you define success. And I know you've got some, because you've been participating and active in the class, I know you've got a number of things that you're trying to do. Take care of your family, launch a business, create an area where you can become a master at helping other people overcome addictions. So you got a lot of things in your favor. In your case, I know you have an education. I know that you're skilled in business. So you've got a different pathway than maybe somebody else who doesn't have that background. Maybe they're not as old as you or as experienced as you are. So there might be like somebody who's 17 or 18 or 19. It's going to be a different tool. So we create these tools at different stages of our development. I started when I was in jail, and I defined success first by saying, I know that I've got to think about my market. The market I want to reach is going to be law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. I want them to see me as something different. Not for my bad decisions, but how I responded to them. So I started by thinking about those three concepts that I wrote about. It's part of the course. One, I wanted to earn academic credentials as measured by a university degree. Two, I wanted to become a published author. That was how I was going to contribute to society. And three, I wanted to find 10 people that I didn't know and that didn't know me. But you see, they all work together in a circle, okay?
Yes.
And I had to put priorities first. I felt it would be easier for me to bring people into my circle if I already had an academic program, if I earned some academic credentials. I thought it was going to be hard for me because I wasn't like you. I wasn't, experienced and educated. I was 23 years old, sitting in jail, facing life in prison. But you know what I did is I found this dictionary. And there's dictionaries there. And in the back of a dictionary, there was a list of colleges. It didn't give their addresses. It just said every four-year college in America, I think, was listed in that dictionary. And it just said, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and it had a zip code. That was the first step of an accountability tool for me. I said, I'm going to write a letter to every one of these universities, and I believe that one of those people will write me back. That was a tool. I said, I don't have any money. I'm in prison. I'm serving a 45-year sentence, but I want to get an education. Is there any program that you can use to help me? And they started, you send 100 letters out, I got a response. And that's how I got into college.
Okay.
Once I got into college, now it was different for me. Now I had a credential. And that took me 4 years or so. So I had a college degree and I wanted to do more. So I started to look at newspapers. I don't know if I told you this story before, but I saw this newspaper that it was the Wall Street Journal. And on the back page, it has this editorial section. And it said, it was a title about about wanting to build more prisons and jails. This is a different era. This is like 1994. I graduated, I think, in 92. So it was probably around 1992, 93. And this article was titled, Let 'Em Rot. And it was written by a professor at Princeton in New Jersey. And it said, we need to build more prisons and jails because people in jail and prison need, they don't learn anything except serving time. I didn't know that guy, but I wrote him a letter. And so I just wrote a letter and I said, hey, I read your article in the Wall Street Journal. I would like to tell you why I disagree with that letter. And what the article that you wrote. And I wrote the letter and I just sent it to John DiUlio at Princeton University, Princeton, New Jersey. I didn't even have the address. Just wrote the letter.
Okay.
And I told him why I disagreed with him. And that was one of my tactics. That was where I told you, I said, you got to document a strategy, you got to have tools and tactics, you got to hold yourself measurable. I just set a goal that I'm going to send out at least 30 letters every month to people that I don't know. Because I know that it's going to take me 100 letters before one person writes me back. He was one of the guys that wrote me back. Okay. And I developed a relationship with him and a friendship with him. And one time when I was in I was at a prison in McKean, Pennsylvania. He actually brought a class of Princeton students into the prison so that I could teach them for a day when I was in my 8th year of prison. It was one of the highlights of my prison term. So when you ask, how did I do it? I did the same thing that I'm suggesting that you do, Brian. I'm suggesting that you define success, you look in the newspaper, get the local newspaper there if you can, find people that might be sympathetic to you, might have an interest in you, and write them a letter. And you could write a journalist a letter. You can write an op-ed piece for the Charlotte newspaper. And you can say, hey, I'm in jail. I've got a problem with addiction. It's caused me to make some challenges, and this is what I'm doing about it. And I'm reading about, you could look at a special event, a current event. Right now, our country is in crisis. There are people rioting, protesting, doing all kinds of crazy stuff that it doesn't even look like America right now because people are just fed up with the way things are and they're doing something. Well, you might have a solution to that, Brian. You may recognize that substance abuse may have some type of a contribution to that. Guess what people need? People need hope. You might be a message of hope, and you might be able to write one out and send it to the newspaper and say, will you publish this? And then they'll publish that article, and then guess what happens? People learn about you, and they write you.
Yeah. I used to write a lot of letters, honestly, to the local paper. They know me. Yeah, the Charlotte Observer. For years, I would write editorial, like letters to the editor. So that's a good. I had not considered that one.
So yeah. It's not only local. Do it nationally, and understand that it's hard to do. You know that from experience, right? They don't accept everything, but you say, okay, I'm going to set an accountability metric, and I'm going to write it once, but I'm going to send it out 10 times. And you know that if you do that 10 times 10, you sent out 100. And those 100 are going to result in one person saying, I'm going to publish your work. And it's that process. Remember, this is about documenting a strategy. So my strategy is to find people and bring them into my life.